welcome to Talking Fish. Cairns Marine is a third-generation family business who supplies some of the world's largest public aquariums with beautiful marine animals from the Great Barrier Reef and the Coral Sea. They have a firm commitment to conservation and sustainability. Here's their story.
Cairns Marine is really special because they have a constant commitment to improving everything they do.
Not only are our staff highly qualified, but they're also extremely passionate about what they do.
That's the cornerstone of our business ethos.
Cairns Marine's a family business. My mother and father, brother and myself are the four directors, and we've been operating Cairns Marine since 1994. In Australia, we're renowned for having some of the best collection practices in the world. All our fish are individually hand caught. There's a lot of skill involved in that. That's why in some countries a lot of people turn to alternate means of collection, either using chemicals or drugs through that process, and even dynamite fishing.
We operate in an environment that has substantial and comprehensive resource management. The way the resources are managed, taking into consideration the ecological role that the species play, but also how those species are valued by the rest of the community, including other people who like to use the reef, but also the wider community anyway.
The true crime behind cyanide collection is the damage and destruction that it wreaks upon the environment. If you take that fish out of the environment, that's one small component, but the destruction of that habitat is what makes it so devastating. My father had done a lot of work in the Philippines and Indonesia, specifically looking at destructive fishing practices, and to that end he had a contract put on his life when he was in the Philippines because of his campaigning against the use of cyanide. Once the fish have been collected, they are then transferred to a collection bucket that the divers have on the bottom, and then the fish are slowly and progressively brought to the surface. You can't bring the fish up too quickly or the swim bladder will expand, so it can take several days for certain species to be decompressed. Once we get the fish on board, each fish is individually containerised to make sure that fish can't damage each other or impact on them. And then they are placed into large 200-litre drums. It's a very time-consuming process, but it's important to make sure that the quality of those animals is at their very best. If you are handling a fish, then you are incurring stress upon it. So we try and develop processes to minimise that handling and that stress through every aspect. Once the boats arrive in port, we've got a crane that picks up the drums off the vessel and deposit it onto the truck, and then once the truck's back at the facility, the divers unload the fish into their own tanks. One of the key points of differentiation between our operation and others is that we track the fish according to the diver right through the whole process.
I think what Cairns Marine has that makes them, that gives them the distinction, the mark of distinction that no one else so far that I know of can touch, and that is traceability. Traceability through chain of custody, and we literally know exactly who caught the animals, our divers, on our vessels, the Clearwater and the Sharpshooter. The divers go to locations throughout the Coral Sea and the Great Barrier Reef, and then when they bring those animals home, every single fish is identified by their diver.
The Great Barrier Reef has enormous diversity of life living there, and as a result of this, we work with over 1,000 species. We work with small fish, large fish, sharks, rays, invertebrates, corals, and all sorts of creatures in between. The present day Cairns Marine facility is really the culmination of 20 years of experimenting. Everything there has been honed to really suit each of the individual species that we're working with.
Different corals are collected from different points on the reef, different depths require different lighting requirements. Same with the fish. Some fish are collected at a lot deeper depths than others, and they need low light conditions.
The time that the animals spend with us depends entirely upon the individual species. Some fish may only be with us short periods of time. Other animals, like some of the public aquarium animals, they can be with us for 6 to 12 months. Cairns Marine supplies animals all over the world. The world's leading, largest public aquaria all display animals from Cairns Marine.
A packing team normally consists of 3 people, a collector, a bagger and a clipper, and they have their assigned roles within that team. The collector collects the fish from the tanks, brings them to the bagger, who inspects the fish and does a final check of quality on the fish to make sure that it is in good condition enough to leave the facility. And then they are placed into an appropriately sized bag with an adequate amount of water and oxygen, and then clipped by the final team member, who then puts them into the boxes ready to be sent out the door.
I suppose collection's always kind of focused upon as the largest part of it, but getting them in the facility is only part of the job. We also have a lot of permits and paperwork requirements for different countries that we're sending the animals to. So, you know, be it CITES certificates where the coral species names have to be perfect, otherwise the entire shipment can get confiscated. So, yeah, it's a pretty important part of the job as well, and it's kind of the last hurdle before we get the animals to where they've got to go.
There is nothing more satisfying for me than being at an aquarium on the other side of the world, watching a father pointing to a fish that we've collected and really trying to teach his child about that creature, and sitting back knowing the full history as to how that animal got there. I derive an enormous sense of satisfaction out of that. Anybody who has a love of marine life, fish, corals, sharks, rays, whatever it is, has an obligation to ask themselves the question, where has that fish come from?
Hope you can join us again soon for more Talking Fish.